shall I go ahead and unpause the recording?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to call this Selectboard meeting of January 4th. To order. I would point out that Terry is joining us via Zoom and Penny is trying to keep our technology running here. Adjustments to the agenda. Walter, you wanted to
do a review of the OHSTT budget.
Okay, transfer station. And I understood from Terry that you have a library donation. Terry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hear
$150.
me all right, Terry?
I can hear you. It's a lot of background noise.
I know there was some shuffling going on and stuff, so, but we're people are settling in.
I do have a library donation for $150 from Audrey and Charlie McClure.
And then I would like to add an executive session to discuss a personnel matter at the end of the meeting. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? And Penny, you're going to have to help me out if someone on the screen. Any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Put it in.
Okay, Scott. And you. Go ahead, Scott.
Can you hear me, John?
Oh yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, I'll keep it away. I got just a couple. What's that?
Too loud.
Too loud? Okay, I got a couple questions about the transfer station. And I'm just wondering when we're gonna have some informational meetings on the price of the project, the layout of the project, and if this goes to town vote again. The only article I've seen is where you were set up a reserve account for the renovation. Is there any more to this? How does it proceed from here? Could you tell me that?
I can't. I'm not on not the board's representative to the transfer station committee, but Walter perhaps can speak to that. Unfortunately, I can't. But Walter, would you?
Yeah. So at the last town meeting, the town set up a reserve, which was funded by the PERC funds that the town received when we dropped out of MRC. That reserve account was for a specific purpose, the renovation plan. And the select board subsequently voted to release those funds to OHSTT for that, also for that purpose. There was an informational meeting scheduled, first of all, for the 3 select boards and the transfer station board for January 13th, but the logistics of that did not work. So more to follow on that. And that's not in my wheelhouse. It's actually Zell's that's working that. There are no plans for any further town voting on that project. The funds for both that were both released by the 3 towns to the transfer station board, and the loan that we got from First National Bank were for that specific purpose. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Well, actually, it does to a certain degree, Walter, but not really, because have you got any information back? Because this has been bid out once, 15 months ago. The contract was delayed, and now it's just been handed to the second bidder, and we've changed from steel building to wood building. Is there any information out there about the cost, and why didn't that go back out to bid?
Is that too loud?
It didn't go out to bid because town council, our corporate council advised that we didn't have to. So second bidder, and the project was de-scoped because he came in so high to begin with. And it's still, way up there, as you know. And you've just exhausted my knowledge of the details of the project and the bidding process.
So Scott, it strikes me that these questions are more appropriately addressed to the transfer station committee board, not.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that, John, is for 3.5 years, I've asked these questions and have got no answers at all. Matter of fact, I talked to Walter in May and he told me to come to a meeting. He would know as much as I did about it. And we've asked and asked and asked. There was no prints available. If you go back in the minutes of the town of Thomaston, they asked for prints and plans last August, a year ago August, because they didn't know what was going on. And this has been a frustration, and it's probably caused a little tension between myself and some of the board members. And I haven't meant it to be, but I can tell you, as you know as well as I do, I've been around this transfer station since Jeff Northgrave's father ran it. And that's a couple minutes ago. You know, and it's been frustrating because this information has not been available.
Well, I don't know what we can do because we don't have that information. I mean, Walter's provided us with updates, but I mean, we don't have the details.
The plans are here.
Maybe the plans, but I mean, we don't have the, well, anyways, okay, sorry.
I brought them here months ago.
Okay, so Terry, do you know where the plans are? Hello? You're muted.
But I haven't brought the new ones, Scott, which in an email exchange that I had today, I said I would do.
So Terry, you're muted.
How's that?
There you go. That's much better. So are you aware of where the plans are? Because they're not, now I understand they're not the updated ones, right? But,
Right.
Right, Walter said he was gonna bring new ones in. The old ones, if he brought them into the office, they must be there somewhere.
They were up on the wall for the longest time.
yeah, Scott, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm not sure what we can do about it or what you're asking us to do. If you're asking us to do anything.
Well, I guess I'm asking, I understand it's two separate entities, but we do have select board members and representatives on the board. I watched these meetings, and the other night I watched the HSTT meeting for 45 minutes, about $1,000. The first bid went in at $900 and something thousand. Is that right, Walter? For SJ Wood?
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Closely. Yeah. Thank you. And this one's at 1.3. And I mean, there's got to be some informational meetings out there. And this not even fixing some of the problems we have up there, I'm afraid. We're not even going to hot top the lower part. And, you know, I thank you for listening. It hasn't been a very transparent process for $1,300,000, $1,400,000. You know, we can go back and forth on time frames and we can blame, you know, everybody else, but it hasn't been very transparent and it's been very, very controlled by a couple individuals. And it's sad, it really is. And thank you for listening to me. Not much we can do now. The horse is out of the barn.
Okay, well, you're the first person that I've heard express any concern in this regard, but I'm going to ask Walter if you'd like to, if you have a final parting comment on this, or are you all set?
Well, I personally am not aware of all the questions that Scott says he's been asking for months and months, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. And those new plans should be in the office, I guess, shortly.
Yeah, I just hadn't had a sense of urgency about that.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Is there any other public comment for items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna jump down because Cliff has another obligation, so I'm gonna jump down to 6A on the new business, discussion of returning to Zoom meetings and precautions for public places in town. This is sort of related to COVID protocols, if you will. I guess I wanted to start off by saying, Cliff, can you hear me? Cliff's right there.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I wanted to, we talked about this briefly at the last meeting in response to EMA Director Betty Thomas's email that we got just before the meeting. And we asked you to opine in, but I think I do want to say that if you're uncomfortable with that at all, that I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position. I mean, you're not a town employee or a town agent or anything. So I want to give you the option to say, I really don't want to give you advice and then to have.
No, I'm happy to tell you what I know, and that's and all I can, on what I can relate on which there's data.
Okay, so I took the liberty to summarize what protocols we have in place right now. And I guess Betty specifically recommended that all committee meetings, and I use that word broadly to include boards, commissions, whatever, go completely remote. And then Penny, this is at last week's meeting, and then Penny asked about exercise class, and all of a sudden the conversation kind of got broader than I think we were prepared to do. So I guess I'd like to, since Betty's the one who brought this up, Betty, I'd like you to basically start and maybe flesh out the basis for your recommendation a little bit more. And then we can ask questions and react to that if that's agreeable with folks.
I think with the cases going up in Knox County, it's becoming very apparent that the CDC recommended not to go by the case count, but go by the local hospitalization records. Penn Bay at this time is at 89% capacity with COVID patients, which basically leaves one ICU bed if there's a problem. So the increase in caseloads with Omicron being extremely contagious, I really seriously believe that going back to remote meetings is highly recommended at this time. I know that the county is going back. I know that St. George has gone to Zoom, and several other towns have followed suit. So basically, those are my thoughts on the subject.
Okay. Cliff, would you like to add anything based on your medical background?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I spent the morning on doing a COVID clinic remotely, and so I saw that this is anything but a trivial disease. There's some noise in some media that this is a bad cold or whatever. It's not. There's some serious illness out there, and it is, as Betty said, it's highly contagious. And just to emphasize what she said, which I completely endorse, is that the official counts are widely accepted to be understating the actual prevalence of the disease, because at-home tests are not counted in the official count, and also the widespread general difficulty in getting tests nationwide is causing a dramatic undercount. And so Dr. Shaw at Maine CDC and actually most of the national authorities are looking at hospital utilization as a measure. And I believe Betty's assessment of Penn Bay capacity is accurate, although it's obviously very fluid. Many institutions are requiring not only an N95 mask, but also face shield. And so, and even then, I think that the transmissibility of the illness is certainly still a possibility. And the only safe way to not transmit the illness is to be in the situation where I am right now. Although I certainly am, I think probably just to be sure, I probably should put on a mask now just to protect you all from me. But I think that the masks, certainly the paper masks, these surgical masks are inadequate at this point, and most of the authorities are recommending N95 or KN95 masks for close contact. And just lastly, those are hard to come by. So I think the only safe thing is to suspend in-person meetings for now.
Okay, why don't we have a little discussion amongst the three of us first, and then we'll see if there's any other comments. Walter, do you want to start?
I totally endorse that idea, and personally, I was going to only do Zoom until further notice anyway.
Okay. But are you talking about all boards and committees, the select board?
Well,
I mean, before we left it up to the discretion of each committee. We don't have to do that, but I'm just trying to get a sense of what, when you say.
I think we should make it a town policy.
Okay. Any other protocols you think we should?
I think we should look at the one person in the, at the front desk at a time. I can't think of anything else. So all Zoom meetings all the time for every town associated or town board and committee, and one at a time in the town office.
And I assume when you're talking committees, are you talking about, Penny raised the question of like the exercise class, it's not technically a meeting, but it's a gathering. Are you including that in your sweep or and that's a little funny because that's being done at the church, but it is sponsored by the town. Okay. Any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I have no problem with us doing Zoom. I do not like the idea of mandating for the committees, and I specifically do not like the idea of mandating it for beyond town facilities and functions. Just like happened tonight with some of the folks up there, like Betty. She said, "I'm not going to go. I'm going to do it by Zoom," and we offer that capability for everybody in the town. Walter's already said that he's going to do it by Zoom, and I think we're all adults and we can all make the right decision given the right information. And I am against an overreach. I have a personal opinion. I think we're all going to get it anyway. I think it's we have tried a bazillion things for the last 2.5 years. We're coming up on the 3rd year of this, and none of the things that we have tried so far have succeeded. People are still dying. People are still going into the hospital, and what we find out is that the masks that we've been wearing for the last 2 years aren't effective. They are especially not effective for the Omicron. And what we all ought to be wearing his mask if we're going to be wearing masks at all. And so again, I just think if you said to me that the bed count is this, and when it gets to this, then we're going to change something. That's what they did before. That's what the state did when we went into this before. They said we've got some statistical information. We're going to use that, and once it changes, then we're going to take it off. But doing it now, when are we gonna not do it? Are we going to be doing this forever and ever? Because I think the virus is here forever. I don't think it's gonna go away. And I think the only way it's gonna be mitigated is when it says it's time to be mitigated. And that's why I like the Omicron, because I see it as the death of the virus, even though it's still gonna be around like the flu and the cold. Because it has said, right now, I'm going to spread to everybody. And the way it's spreading, everybody's gonna end up getting it. And so I'm frustrated if we're trying to mandate to anybody beyond ourselves.
Okay, well, I tend to agree more with Walter, I think. I do think that in an ideal world, I would like to see us go to complete remote and mandate it for all our committees and boards. I could live with the idea that each committee can choose on their own, provided they all, and I think one or two of them aren't at this point, provided that they all offer the public and committee members the opportunity to participate by Zoom. If that was a compromise position, I could live with that. I would prefer not to. I do agree that we should go back to one person at a time in the front office. And that has its challenges too, because I've seen when we were doing that, people would come in, they would take some time to get waited on. Someone would be outside waiting in their car, someone else would pull up just as the person that was waiting, just as the person came out, and they would shoot in ahead of the person that was out in their car waiting. But I briefly talked to Terry about that, and she thought maybe she could set something up like at the deli where you take a number or something. But because I do think that's very frustrating. But in terms of when we end this, I think we don't need to make that decision tonight. I mean, I think we can, maybe it's only a month, and this will, take a steep dive the other way. But I mean, it's very local. We've heard of local businesses that are being impacted, 2 of them within a mile of here. So I also, on the exercise class, if that's what you're referring to as not a town function, I think it is a town function. It doesn't happen to be held in a town building, but as I understand it, it's operated by the library and the librarian, and has been since the beginning. I have that correct, right? And I see no difference between that and a meeting. It's a gathering that the town is sanctioning. So that's kind of my general idea. I also think we need to, I'm in here a lot, as Terry will tell you, and I think we need to be more conscientious about sticking to the rules that we currently have in place, as well. So any follow-up comments amongst the board? And then I want to get comments from the public, particularly board chairs. Walter?
I have a question for Terry. Are the ambulance people still disinfecting this room all day long, or several times a day, or whenever there's a meeting?
I do not know.
Okay, we should start that up too.
I didn't know that was a.
That was the practice during the last
Okay.
state of
I
emergency.
wasn't aware of that. I will, I guess the other thing I question is, should we be mandating that employees, even if they're vaccinated, wear masks while they're in here? With what we have said, and what our current policy is, that if they provide proof to Terry that they're vaccinated, that they can remove their mask when not in the presence of the public. So I think that's another matter, but let me Jeff, did you have any follow-up comments?
No, I'm just curious how the fire department will do training. What the impact will be of the training. Will you be able to do training?
No, and because I understand where you guys are going, talking about, anything I'm gonna say, I'm not against it, it's the safety and concerns of the citizen, employees, all that. The one issue is that if the state is not mandating this, I still have to train under Bureau of Labor guidelines, otherwise we're in fault of what we do. Now, we don't have meetings, we're training, or we're doing truck night. So roughly, we're here maybe the most 3 times a month. We're in the building. And the crew is very good about coming from the front door through with the town office open, masks is on. Once they hit that side of the wall and the doors are shut and we're on that side, the masks are off. Unless some people still wear them because they feel comfortable wearing the mask. And that's their choice. When we go out on incidents and calls, the masks are on when we're not having to wear everything else that we're doing. But that's just one of my concerns, is the fact that the state's not mandating these changes. So we, the fire department, still have to follow BOL guidelines on our training requirements. And if you shut us down that we can't come in here, then we're in jeopardy of being in violation of Bureau of Labor, which I just renewed our qualifications with them. So, and then on top of that, takes out like truck equipment night. Now I'm gonna have to, basically, I'm gonna have to do them on my own time because no one else would be allowed in the building. If we go to that stretch. But when I'm hearing what you're saying, you're not.
We haven't made any decisions.
I understand that.
But I do have 2 questions. One is, you say the people, once they're in there, they remove their masks, and these are people that I assume have provided Terry with evidence they're vaccinated?
Everyone on the fire department is vaccinated except for one person, and they have not been attending. Oh, they're out on other issues leave. But everyone on the fire department
So
is
when
vaccinated.
they remove so in effect though, they're violating the current policy or practice of if there's 6 or more people in the area,
No, we're not violating anything that you currently guys have in effect. When we maxed out on personnel, everyone, we're not.
Well, hang on.
Go ahead.
Right now, our policy is that if there's 6 or more people in an area, say in here, in any place in the town building gathered, doesn't have to be a meeting, but a gathering, they're supposed to have masks up, even if they're all vaccinated. So you are doing that?
That wasn't my understanding once we're on that side of the wall.
Well.
In
okay.
here, yes, we are
That's
more.
outside.
Well,
in this-
in the town building, which is what we said, but that's
That's
okay.
just a miscommunication, but if we're in here, yes. If we're all vaccinated, we all spread, we try not to come in here at all.
Yeah.
Because it's a close, if we're gonna do a big training, we'll move things out and, because there's more space out there.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm just trying to,
no, I understand.
okay, well,
So all but one of your staff is vaccinated?
Correct.
Any breakthrough cases?
No.
Do you know if Amy's had any?
I have no idea about the animals.
No, okay.
Can I follow up with that? I've also taken out from your policy, I've gone to the next step. We're all adults. If you do not feel yourself, sniffle, cough, don't come. And the crew is following that rule. They're not coming if they don't feel their normal self, because they don't want to put someone else in jeopardy.
yeah, and that's good, but we know that people that are asymptomatic can have it and spread it.
I understand.
But, yeah. Okay, I only see one chairperson of the committee either in the room or so I'm gonna ask Theo, do you have any opinions about this? You're actually the one committee that hasn't been Zooming, or at least maybe there might be one other, but so, and do you have any thoughts or comments or concerns you want us to consider as we
Well,
develop?
only, we have discussed this, and I know that we are going by the rule that says 6 or more, you all have to be masked. And unfortunately, we've been down a couple of commissioners, so we've never exceeded that amount. And I think that the commission is going to do whatever you all decide. We can certainly go to a Zoom. And I think that's a really good alternative rather than stop meeting.
Okay. Let's see, is there any, Penny, your department head, and Brian spoke to you, anything you want to say or comment on?
I guess I'm looking for guidance about the library and the exercise class. I guess I would like to ask Cliff's opinion about our exercise class.
Sure, go ahead. Cliff, Penny would like to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
We gather in the fellowship hall at People's United Methodist Church. It is a large room with high ceilings. We have ceiling fans, we crack the windows, and we wear masks. And we are at least 6 feet apart. But I don't know if that's safe enough now. I wear an N95 myself, but I see a variety of masks. And
Yeah, the characteristics of this virus is different from the previous ones. During the previous iterations, the surgical masks were shown to be quite effective. In this case, they're not. This is a much more infectious virus, perhaps 50 to 75 times more infectious. It's just a different characteristic. The N95 is substantially better in terms of filtering small particles. I mean, what you're describing, Penny, I think is as good as it gets, right? So you have, if you're going to do indoors, and that's important, spreading people out, having air motion, cracking the windows, people wearing masks, and preferably an N95, limiting the number of people so that they're not crowded. That's as good as it gets. And, you know, the Maine CDC is they're limiting their recommendation to masking for indoors group. They're not coming down in any more detail. In my opinion, and what I understand of the biology of the virus, what you're doing is as good as it's possible to do and still maintain that gathering.
Cliff, I wanted to add one other point. I'm putting on this N95. I haven't used it before because I find it very hard to breathe, but I guess that's why it works.
Oh, they're awful.
One, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, it tends to be an elderly population in this exercise class. Quite so? Does that change your opinion in any way?
No, actually, it does not. It's interesting. The patients that I saw today were almost uniformly young and quite ill.
Okay, I just thought you should know that.
so if I provide N95s to the entire class to make sure they are wearing the best mask they can have, you wouldn't say, no, it's not worth the risk, stay home, go to Zoom.
I say it's as good as it gets, Penny. I mean, I don't think anybody can guarantee one way or the other. I think that monitor, just emphasizing, John's point is correct, that the asymptomatic spread is very high, but there's also symptomatic spread. And so that, you know, anybody who's feeling off their feet ought not come. But, you know, if there's a group decision that it is important for us to have exercise class and have it indoors and to have it in this location, what you're doing is as good as it gets. I would add an N95 if that's possible. Although I can imagine it is not easy to exercise in an N95. I've tried it.
It's not, but Pat's able to modify her class to be a little less aerobic and more endurance to accommodate the problem with breathing.
Yeah, I think it's a question of probabilities and each individual's determination of risk.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, but I do have one question for you, Penny. Can you conduct this class by Zoom? Or does it decimate your ranks.
It lets out the very oldest population that just doesn't have that technology. And it does let out some that it's more of a being in the same place with a group of people doing, there's more incentive for them to show up. If they can come into the room and say hi to their buddies and, we noticed the drop off when we were all Zoom last year.
Oh,
And-
so we have done it Zoom before.
Yes, we
Oh,
have,
okay.
but we lost the 90-year-old. They were out.
Okay, all right, is there any comment from anybody in the public? Well, go ahead, sorry, I'll go back to you.
Just a quick question, if we move forward with what you guys are gonna possibly change, because N95s or K95s are hard to get, and they were hard to get back when this all started, funded, are you, the board, going to fund the departments to be able to try and get some and have them for supply? Because back before, and I don't know if Betty knows anything from the county aspect, it was hard to get them, and if we could get them, we got them. And the funding was there through FEMA. Now, is FEMA gonna back what's going on now for funding? Just, not that I'm probably not the typical department head that would ask about the funding aspect. I mean, if I need to get them, I'm gonna go get them, and I'll make it work, but just throw out that.
I'm not sure we're
Yeah,
that
I
far
agree.
down into the decision-making process yet, but that's certainly a concern. Betty, could I ask you, do you agree that N95s or KN95s are difficult to get, or does county EMA have a trove of them hidden over there somewhere that,
John-
I know that they're in short supply, John, but I will talk to Ray and see if we can get a supply of them. But everybody is trying to get them now, so they're becoming more and more scarce. But I will, I'll.
No, I
do
wasn't
some-
asking you to do anything. I was just asking you whether or not you were gonna come on and say, oh yeah, they got 8 million of them over there or something.
So
Okay.
I did,
Home Depot has them in stock now.
Yeah,
Sorry, what,
but-
Cliff?
so, I'm sure. So, okay, does anybody in the public in the room like to comment on this subject? Go ahead.
Ruth Franklin, Sprucewood Island. It just seems to me, not including the fire department and the ambulance, they need those. But if you're going to supply N95s to some of the people in the town, just the residents, are you gonna supply it to all the residents of town?
Yeah, we haven't decided to slide to anybody yet,
No,
so,
I'm
but
saying
I know that's
said
question.
if. I said if.
No, I mean, I can see if we make a carve out for the fire department so they can meet and train, that we might want to try to get them some N95 masks.
Oh, definitely,
Uh,
definitely.
And that to me, the fire department and the ambulance would be the top priority. No offense to the exercise.
No,
but,
I understand completely.
That's it.
Yeah.
They need it. I'll
Yeah.
throw in money to help the
Yeah.
fire department and the
Well-
ambulance get them.
yeah, and we could do it with our AARP funds too. So,
AARP.
yeah, American Rescue Plan.
Oh, I thought that was the,
It's only one, it's just AR.
Huh?
AR.
American, yeah, ARP, sorry. Okay,
Not the other one.
is there anybody who would like it from the public? Is there anybody from the public on Zoom? No, okay. Terry, do you have anything to add to this? Because you're the person who has to kind of live with this, enforce this, be the tattletale. And I know Brian said when his firemen come through the door, they always have their mask on. That wasn't true the other day.
I don't come to the station, I get pulled together.
I know. And as a matter of fact, he said, whoops, I forgot my mask, and he ran through. So, it's not perfect, I get that. But Terry, any thoughts?
No,
None.
the only thing I don't really want to see is only have one person in the lobby. I don't know, maybe we could work something out so they could be 6 feet apart, but it's cold, it's winter. I go down to the post office and they have one person in the lobby and people sneak in front of you. And I think maybe we do need to have a number system. I don't know, maybe we can work something out, but that's the only thing I don't like. I can live with a mask. I can live with Zoom.
Okay. Walter?
Yeah, if you went to Amazon Smile right now, you could order 50 black KN95 masks for delivery on January 13th.
And we do have AR people, so. So let's, we got a lot of balls in the air here, so I'm gonna try to separate some things. I think one question is whether or not the select board wants to go to exclusively Zoom meetings. And I'm not gonna take a vote on this, but I just get we have to. Can I just get a sense of the board? Walter?
Like I said, I'm gonna only participate by Zoom.
So I assume that's a yes. Yeah?
I'll participate either way you do it.
Okay, and I'm a yes. So I think we should go to Zoom, and this would be for an indefinite period. We can always come back out of it at some point. Should we mandate that all committees and boards, commissions, whatever, I'm gonna use the word committee, meet only by Zoom?
Even the CDC doesn't mandate, they recommend, and I don't have a problem with recommending, but again, that's my opinion.
Okay, Walter?
The reason I would like to have it be mandated and consistent is if a board meets in person and creates a carrier, then some of us might have to interact with that person. So I think we protect each other if everybody's doing Zoom. That is associated with town boards that have interactions with the other town board members or select board members.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes too. I think for the time being, I agree with you. I think we need to all go too. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit and deal with the sort of meeting. I'm gonna deal with the exercise class issue, because that's the only other, and then we'll get to you and your gathering. How do you feel about that? Yeah?
I think that they should have their exercise classes the way they do.
Can you do them hybrid?
Oh, we do, we
You
have.
do, okay. Walter?
I think they should make up their own mind, although they're running the risk of creating a carrier that's gonna go out and infect other people.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, we're running the risk.
right,
The town is running the risk by operating this. And I think to say that it's not a town function is a misnomer, but there's also, to me, there's very little downside in having a meeting remote. I think with some of these folks, they saw last time that when they stopped it, there was a downside. So I guess I would personally leave it up to the discretion of the librarian who operates it.
yeah, here, so I agree with that. And, you know, I think one of the things that has come about because of the quarantines and the lockdowns is major instances of people's mental health suffering. And what I heard from Penny was, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the needs for affiliation. That's big in that group. So I wouldn't be jumping up and down to tell them not to get together.
Okay. Okay, but I do think it's important though that we have all of a sudden, right here in South Thomas, there's, 600 people get sick, that Penny can say, we're not gonna do it this week, we're gonna do it remotely, or something like that, and she's aware that she has that, she'd probably do that anyways, but that. So,
Well, our area, the 5/8 area code's over 100 cases now.
and as well,
And that has happened in a very short period of time.
so, let's talk about the fire department gathering. Thoughts on that? I personally am in favor of carving them out. I think they're very safety conscious as it is. I do think that we should try to get N95 or KN95 masks for them. And I think they should wear. But
Well, yeah, and if they're gonna use this room, sanitize.
We always do. We always do.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. If they're in here, I agree with that. If they're outside or on a call or something like that, that in a lot of those cases, they're wearing their gear anyway. So I think that we should carve them out. I do like the idea of providing them with the masks.
well, why don't we buy some masks with our AAR people? Before you do that, go ahead.
Let me check my supply on N95 before I go and buy any.
You and Terry can.
Yep, we'll work it
that
out.
We don't need to get in the middle of
Yep.
that. So, go ahead. I'm trying to get down through this, but go ahead.
I know, but I just said I was gonna give a donation to the fire department and a donation to the ambulance department. For, specifically for N95.
Well, we got the federal money we can use for that. I mean, you certainly are willing to give a donation, but, and I'm sure we.
I don't want anybody to go without an
Well, I
N95.
don't,
We are fine.
money's not the issue.
No.
We,
Don't worry about the fire department. We're good.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, we have the federal money. You
People
can,
turning down
no,
money.
you
Wait a
can
minute.
give them, take that money you were gonna give and give them to them for another purpose.
I wanted to win the lottery last night to say, you get $1 million and you get $1 million and you get $1 million.
Okay,
Sorry.
what about, so is that it with sort of gatherings, meetings? Does that cover,
No,
go ahead.
the library.
Do you have gatherings and meetings there?
Yeah, we have, mahjong,
We haven't had mahjong in like 3 or 4 weeks.
right, but I'd like some guidance as far as the gathering, and also tomorrow night, the library community center facilities meeting is scheduled to be there. Is
Yeah.
that-
Well, I was thinking we would make this effective like next Monday or something personally. I mean, I think we need a little bit of time to implement this.
Well, I think that committee could certainly swing it, that we could go to Zoom.
Right, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's come back to the effective date and because
Okay, well,
that's the
capacity,
only committee that's affected by that I'm aware of.
okay, capacity in the library. Yeah, at one time we were doing one person,
Okay.
other than the,
Yeah, well, I'm not ready to jump to one person yet. I'm talking about meetings and gatherings. with this.
okay.
So, other, meetings, are there other meetings and gatherings there besides we've already dealt with the facilities committee.
The function of the library, right? The normal day-to-day function of the library. So
But that's getting ahead of.
that's, you're not
I'm
putting
not
that
there.
in the
I'm
category.
not putting that there yet.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
I'm
why.
talking about meetings and gatherings,
So,
so,
Lions.
yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about the Lions.
Well, you did exclude them in the.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Yeah, book
And-
club is coming up in a couple of weeks, that has a potential of 5 or 6 in the room.
Yeah,
I thought that was Zoom.
I mean, it seems to me if we're telling committees that they've got to meet by Zoom, if you're gonna have 5 or 6 for book club, that follows through with the same type of thing, but that's
But
fine.
is that a town function or is that a group, a social function that is independent of the town?
Well, it's facilitated by the library.
And it's in the
Yeah, the
library.
library.
I think it's hard to argue, it's not a town function.
But I think they've been Zooming for a long time.
No, we've been meeting in there
Yeah.
with the Zoom capability for
Yeah.
Todd Crawford and Toronto.
They were Zooming, I don't know.
All of our things have a Zoom hybrid.
Well,
Not much.
I feel like we're losing
Yeah,
focus here, so, my thought is, unless we have specifically exempt something, then the rule applies. No
Okay.
meetings or gatherings, except by remote, unless we specifically exempt something. So I'm gonna, to try to simplify this, is there anything you would like to specifically exempt in the library? No. Okay, is that okay with you, Walter? Jeff? Okay. All right, now so we dealt with your meeting and gathering. I think we dealt with all the meeting and gathering issues. Now let's deal with the capacity issue. We have a capacity, well, no, that's not an issue anymore because meetings and gatherings here. So I think the only capacity issues we have to deal with are the front lobby and the library, I think. Thoughts on that? Basically returning to one person at a time in the library. I mean, in the lobby. I personally am in favor of that. I think if I come in and I'm standing there and then someone else comes in, I have no choice because that person is right next to me. I mean, if someone is already in there, I can wait, but I can't do it the other way around. So, but I don't know how you two feel. We were doing that for the longest time, and there were some issues. Thoughts?
well, I mean, there are alternatives. You can, and they do this a lot of places. You just put spots on the floor that when you come in, you have to wait on this spot and it gives you 6 feet apart. Although, again, if we're doing this for the Omicron, I don't think that those rules apply. But again, we're just doing. We're doing what we think is right, and it's not based on science or fact or anything like that, because we don't know. We don't know what the Omicron is, and by all indications, 6 feet is not the right rule because it is a truly airborne type of virus. It has more, but I don't think the 6 feet rule applies.
I don't
But if we
I
go,
want to do one person.
yeah, but I don't. But again, that's not even going to do. If you're basing it on what we think it is, and we're guessing at what it is, you would just shut down. Okay, but we're not going to just shut down, and we shouldn't just shut down. So we have to come up with what we think is a mitigation,
Right.
that is reasonable.
I agree.
And in the wintertime, I don't think one in the lobby is a good idea. So I think you put dots at certain spots and they have to stand on the dot until the person leaves and you keep it away from the door.
So it sounds like you're a no.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of the one person yet.
Walter?
Well, I'm in favor of the one person, but I think whether we wait to do that or we do it and then that we should find out what the state of thought and knowledge on that subject is about does 6 feet matter anymore, as Jeff points out. I mean, apparently you can't even go live in Antarctica and escape this thing.
Right. Cliff, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I have a thought. It's that the 6 feet never was a particularly good rule because Jeff is correct. It's an aerosolized virus. The 6 feet was based on the initial thought that it was droplet borne, and droplets fall in 2 meters, and that was proven after a couple of months of the pandemic not to be correct. So the 6 feet is, I mean, it's aspirational much more than accurate. But the problem is it's not so much that this virus is dispersed any differently than the previous one. It's just much more infectious. it's by several factors of 10 more infectious. In other words, it takes fewer particles to cause an infection than the Delta. And that's just a true fact, but its dispersion is exactly the same.
So Mike, I was specifically wondering though, if you had a thought on the one person limiting one person at a time in the lobby.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the best, because yeah, would that person leave residue? So when they leave, there's still suspended particles? Yeah, probably, but probably small. If they're masked, certainly not. It's problematic in the winter. I don't have any easy solution to that. When we were doing it, it wasn't an insurmountable problem.
Yeah, okay. So Walter, you were a yes, and I'm a yes, and Jeff's a no on that lobby issue. Okay, the library, were you ever doing one person at one time?
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way there. I mean, that's a small space. How do you feel about it?
According to your email, I can make stricter rules than the town could make, so I'm leaning toward that, and I have, especially to families with young children, offered by appointment, you know, when the library is
Right.
not occupied, hasn't been occupied, as an option. And so, and I would expand that to all our patrons, that if they'd be more comfortable that I come in and unlock the door after the building's been quiet for 12, 15 hours, then I'm willing to accommodate our patrons there too. We have a very vulnerable crowd, old and very young.
Well, when we originally enacted these, we said that the department heads could enact stricter things, and we were particularly thinking, I think, of Brian and Amy. You know, Brian wanted to require everybody in the truck wear a mask or whatever, whatever it was. That's true, but if we don't impose only one person at a time.
Oh, no, I mean both.
Huh?
I mean both. Have a one person in the library at a time.
Yeah.
Or make your appointment,
Okay, but
bring your whole family.
so specifically, how do you feel about us limiting it to one person at a time?
I'm fine with that. I would support that.
Okay, Walter?
Penny, would you have done that even if we hadn't brought it up? That's what I thought.
Okay,
That was my point from the very beginning.
right, but you wouldn't have to.
Right.
Right.
And I'd like to see some consistency here, so I think, and this could be very temporary. I mean, this may quickly dive off a cliff. I mean, it did in South Africa, they say, so.
But it could just as easily go the other way and still be temporary, because everybody's got it.
Sure.
Which I think is
So,
more likely.
so Walter, are you in favor of
Yes.
one? I am as well, and I take it you're not.
No, I think it's up to Penny.
I'm in favor of whatever Penny says.
Okay, so, is there anything else we need to deal with? Do we need to modify any of our other current policies that are in place? Does that cover everything?
Well, you mentioned the Lions. The Lions is different.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are renting that space down there. So it's not a town function, again, it's not a town space.
They do come upstairs though, right?
For the restroom.
And they're still meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's the first Tuesday.
You're not in attendance tonight.
Correct. I went there before this and then I'll go down and clean up.
Well, I guess I kind of agree with you. They rented that space, which sort of makes it their space. The town has nothing to do with it other than the space. It's a separate space. So I'm willing to just leave that where it is. But Walter, your thoughts on it, or?
I think for their own safety and security and health, they ought to learn how to do all the sanitation stuff that fire department and the ambulance people and maybe people probably teach you how to do that, unless you know already.
We've got several folks that take care of it.
Okay, so we can, leave them to their own devices. And hope that no one gets sick. All right, anything else we need to deal with on this? I think Betty, any final comments or concerns or? Guess she's gone. Betty, you there? I hear I can't see people. I guess she's gone. Okay,
Let's got his hand up.
oh, Cliff, go ahead.
Just very briefly, I thank you very much for allowing me to participate. I have to leave for another meeting to talk about coronavirus in another setting. So it's all I do all day is coronavirus. It's a living. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Don,
I would, yeah.
I just wanted to offer to Theo that I could assist with setting up their meeting for them and send out the invitation link to her to distribute amongst her members.
Did you hear that, Theo?
It wasn't clear, Penny. Could you,
Penny, if you could just get, Penny said she'd be more than willing to help you set up the Zoom and stuff and how to make that work. So
That would be
if you could just
awesome.
if you could just contact her outside of this meeting. That would
Thank
be
you.
great. Okay, and I think we should make it this, personally, I feel we should make this effective Monday. I feel we need to have a little bit of time to get it out to people. Is there any objections to that?
No.
Okay. Walter, can you put this into a motion?
I move that we approve the changes to, or new policies regarding gatherings, meetings, and the several carve-outs or exceptions that we've made to the new policy.
I'll second that. I had a feeling you weren't gonna.
Yep. Well, no, I'm willing to second.
Oh, all right, look at that.
The only time you have to vote affirmative is if you make the motion. If you second it, you can still vote.
Yes. So do you, okay, go ahead. Then second it if you want.
I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion? I just want to say, I think this was a good discussion, and I'm glad we were able to have it in a very civil manner, because I think a lot of these discussions in local governments have not gone this way.
That's why we live here and not Alabama.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jeff? Okay, 2-1. Terry, you have a question?
Yes, I have a hard time hearing Walter, so I didn't get the whole motion.
It's because he's wearing that.
Maybe he
mask.
maybe.
I was gonna say that, Jeff.
Did you email it to her, Walter?
Sure.
He's gonna email it to you. It was basically that we just approved everything that we sort of discussed and agreed upon, but he'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you, Walter.
But you're gonna need to capture what we agreed upon.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Theo.
Going back to all of this, do we still have the option of meeting in person if we're less than 6? Or has it got to be Zoom?
No,
No
not after
options.
Monday. Yeah.
Okay,
Now
thank you.
this could change in a couple of weeks. I mean, you know.
That's all right. I just need to know, I wanted to be very clear, so I know what to tell my committee.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Let's move back quickly. Maybe we can dispose of some of these real quick minutes. We have one set, I believe we got today on that short little meeting.
Yeah, the only addition or correction I'd make, Terry, is it's still headed as select board agenda as opposed to minutes, but everything else looks good.
Okay. Okay.
Motion.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from December 30th as amended.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Terry, and we have a set to come still, right? The 28th?
Yep, you'll have 2 to come.
Well, yeah, I'm not counting tonight. Thank you. I just want to make sure we weren't missing them.
No, they're almost there.
Yeah. I think this can be a quick yes or no. Is there any new information on Gilbert Butler temporary relocation?
No.
Nothing I've heard, nothing you've heard. Do we want to take any action? Can we take any action?
Well, like I said last time, after the holidays, so probably the next week. Before the next meeting, I'll try to talk to John.
Okay,
See if he's got any updates.
okay.
But again, I agree with Penny. I don't think we want to push because it's not all that time critical for us.
Well, you're anxious to move, right?
Well, yeah, but I don't want someone to say, oh, we'll show them the slide us down to the bottom. We'll patiently wait.
Yeah, okay. Midcoast Internet Development Corporation, we sent off the letter, haven't heard anything back. I don't believe they even acknowledged receipt of it. Did they, Terry? Can't hear you.
Nope, they didn't.
Okay, and Walter, is there anything?
I sent an email to Mark Roulette for an update, but then I remembered that you went to the corporation meeting, and it appeared to me that their study for the 4 towns is obviously higher in the priority list than us.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I haven't heard back from them. I'll ping them again.
Are you planning on attending their next meeting? I don't think they're doing them remotely.
I don't know. I'll
It's,
think about
I mentioned to you when they were gonna do it. I don't know.
Oh.
Well, you'll get the agenda anyways, right?
that. Right,
Yeah.
I should.
So, okay, so nothing much on that. Library Community Center Facility Committee donor card. I think we only had 2 people who submitted revised versions. And you have them both. Any thoughts or comments or questions?
So I like Candace's checkoff list and your, in the event that the town blah, blah, blah decides to terminate that preceding the checkoff list. So I'm about symbiosis or synergism between the two. Not everything for everyone, but something for everyone.
So Candace's should maybe use my choice for this donation. Okay. The only problem that I have with that is it doesn't say, the project, if this project is not controversial, the town may keep the funds. It doesn't say that we're gonna return the funds if, there's not that option.
Oh, right.
So it says maybe use to plan fundraising, construct a library or community center. So that's just sort of general. It doesn't say new. Which is, yeah, it doesn't say, I feel that my first checkup needs to be in there.
I would agree with that. Totally. I mean, that's,
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the.
that's
part of the
important.
purpose, yeah.
That was the reason we did this.
Right. And I would like personally to see maybe use the plan fundraising to construct a new library and community center, because I think that could be misinterpreted. I mean, that could be misconstrued in my mind to say, renovate the Guilford Butler as a community library center, because that's the next option, but.
That's, see, in your version, that's what you have at the top. And then I like you and Candace handled this 2 different ways. She quoted the article, but you did in the event that the town decides to terminate.
Right.
And then return to me is important. And the thought part, the thing is that if the project goes for 5 years and doesn't materialize or doesn't make, then what's the logical option is that we would do something with Guilford Butler Schools. I don't have a problem with that, because it's not an event that is taking place now. We're not fundraising to renovate the building now. But you know, it's like, the reason I like Candace is if this project does not come to fruition, the town may keep the funds, is because the difference between that and your language, John, is you're saying that it's a cultural recreational purpose, which I don't disagree with, but as deemed advisable by the select board, and the second one is the same. And,
Well, no, the second one's broader.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, we could use it to fund the transfer station.
Well, it may come to that, as you'll see shortly.
And the first one, you know, my intent with the cultural recreational was that because that's where we budget library funds under culture and recreation. But I guess, so would you object to inserting the word new in Candace's first sentence?
Not at all.
Because, and then the second one may be used to build new or renovate. But you also, the other thing here with Candace's though, you could check multiple ones. Right? You could check all three. I tried to make them mutually inexclusive.
Mutually exclusive.
Yeah, thoughts?
Yeah, I like your intro on it in the event the town decides to terminate. And I think that almost replaces her first one. Right. Because it says it right in there.
Yeah, because it's sort of the first, it's up top too. The purpose of this donation is to fund the planning and construction of a new facility, so I agree with you.
Yeah, so I would just replace the first bullet with your statement. And I think the rest of them are really are the same thing you've got, except you carved out the cultural and recreational. And I think that's really.
Well, it gets back to the comment that John made last time, which is if it's neither, if you know, if you're not taking the money back, the project doesn't go forward, doesn't get fully funded. You're not taking the money back. You're not earmarking it for Guilford Butler renovation. Then John is making it specific that the next choices are fall under the authority of the select board. And
Oh, that's the difference.
right, and Candace is more along my line of thinking, which is that the money goes into the town general fund.
Which,
Yeah, see, I have a problem with that.
That's why I reminded you that you do have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, if I make $100,000 donation, I'm not saying I'm going to, but if I do, I don't want it to be lowering the tax rate.
And I'll say, again, what's wrong with that?
So, yes. So I do object to this.
Now you know why you specifically mentioned the select board in your.
But I would like to give Candace a chance to speak if you, to your,
Don't forget this is
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a collaboration
Okay,
with
it came from Candace, so that's
I
why,
just had her send it, she's the one that formatted it.
Yeah.
I don't
do
agree.
you wanna speak to you?
Actually, I was quite impressed with yours. And, but I think mine's clearer and easier on the eyes. And I think as an educator, when they're talking with the public, it's important to make it succinct. But I again, is, I think, exactly what we were just hearing. That those components do need to be put into place, and again, because I'm not used to doing the political kind of thing, if you will. Yeah, some things are,
Okay, yeah.
so thank you.
Okay, but I think we need to bear in mind what this is. This is a card that's gonna come along with hopefully a significant donation. It's not a flyer to raise money.
Right.
It's more like a legal document that I don't think you even need to even really put out there until someone is pretty much ready to write a check. It's not a fundraising tool.
It's a housekeeping tool.
Huh?
It's a housekeeping.
Right, it's a house administrative tool, so.
But I also would like to say that there is a little piece that does concern me, in the fact that when I was researching how to put together something like this, every single document I looked at from different states relative to this kind of donation, very clearly at the bottom said that there was no, that the
Service, yeah.
donations received did not get services for whatever
Right.
else.
But I thought we dealt with that at the last meeting, because we were gonna draw up have Terry draw up a generic receipt that would go with any donation,
Yeah.
whether it's this,
Right.
this donation to this or a donation to the library.
Right,
Um,
I just want to make sure we don't get
Yeah.
our.
yeah, because we haven't been doing that. And it's only if it's more than 250, right, or?
Well, that's the IRS rule for, if you donate $100,
Right.
you don't need to necessarily produce the
And
receipt.
we haven't had a lot of donations over 250, so it's not like we've been, yeah. Okay. Well, I must confess, I like mine better. Only because it does accomplish, I mean, it gives folks, I don't know, it kind of steps it down, the different options, but.
I'm sorry, were you going?
Pardon?
Did you just say you were going one or the other?
I said I like mine better.
Yeah,
because
no,
I think it steps it down in a logical sequence.
Whatever.
But
I'm torn by as advisable by the select board.
what's the problem with that? Well, how about we just strike that? Maybe use, as a culture, maybe use, whoop, there's a word missing there.
See, and
And just put a period after cultural recreational purpose, period.
Okay, which would imply that it can't be used for the fire department or ambulance or whatever, but certainly for library and some other things.
Yeah, and the fourth one, though, could be used for the fire.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
and so take this like as being
Advisable out on both of them, yeah, and that makes it less.
any lawful public purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think it's almost moot. Because the reality is, either way you put it, it's gonna be as determined by the select board at some point, either during the
Yeah.
budget process or after the budget process.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, I put the fourth line in there because I thought you were interested in that. I personally would have ended it after the third line.
Oh, really? Well, see, yeah.
Because you said something to the effect, well, we want to make sure that, I can't remember how you worded it, but we want to make sure we can keep it.
Right. And I want to still give everybody the option of, even if everything else goes, the town still gets the money.
But personally, I don't think we're going to get by number 3. I think if you're making a donation for a library,
It's gonna be
might
one or
be
the other.
willing to let it go to Gilbert Butler, and then you might be willing to let it go to.
And the other part of it is, again, that's almost moot. The fourth one is almost moot. Because even if it is under cultural recreational purposes, we're always given the authority to expend from one line and not from another.
Not with a donation, with conditions
you're
on
right.
it. No, I don't think so. This is a donation with
So
conditions
it
on
would
it,
have to go to
so-
something recreational.
or cultural, which, again, that's where we budget library, so that's why I use that, but I'm willing to strike the fourth one, if you feel that muddies it, or makes it look like we're just using it for, they go to the general fund, below the tax.
And I don't want to give the impression that it should go to the general fund to reduce tax.
Yeah, I'll strike, that's a compromise for me. Hang on one second, Ruth, you have a comment?
I don't have the information in front of me, but and I think a lot of other people who want to see the new library, if we wanted to give a substantial donation for a new library, that's what we want to give, not for the money. If the library doesn't happen, we don't want that money to go into the town coffers or to Gilbert Butler.
Right.
We want the money back.
That's
And
the
that's
purpose.
exactly-
that's the purpose of it.
For you to
So you
convey
get your money
that,
back.
Excuse me, but because I don't have that information in
Yeah.
front of me, I didn't get that from the meeting.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose.
the whole purpose of this is to give you the ability to put restrictions on the money you're giving to the town,
Thank you.
Right,
or not put
Yeah,
restrictions.
yeah.
and I even thought you could put other restrictions. I mean, someone may give $1 million and say, or $3 million and say, but I'll only give it if you'll name it after my Aunt Sarah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you know, like City Field, you know?
Yeah,
Gilbert Butler.
Yeah. Okay, so are we there then?
So we're striking may be used for any lawful public purpose.
Right, and adding the word may be used for
A cultural recreational purpose.
purpose.
I assume it goes without saying that since we're striking lawful purpose, we're also not even saying anything about an unlawful purpose.
Correct. Right,
Okay.
by assumption.
all right, well. Further, something else?
So I have a question here. You're striking the word may be used for any lawful purpose of deed
Right.
advisory, striking that out. right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they got three options. They're donating it, the donation is for a new library, and that's clear at the top. However, if in the event the town decides to terminate planning or construction of the new library, and any portion of my donation remains unspent, and that's, I think, important, because people could donate, we could spend money on planning, and then we can't raise enough to build.
Exactly.
If any portion I inspect the remaining balance, and this says check only one below, be returned to me, us, may be used to renovate the Guilford Butler School as a library community center, if you so choose, or maybe even a broader, may be used for a cultural or recreational purpose.
Yeah.
I think that covers it.
Yeah,
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt that?
I so moved.
I second that.
Thank you for reminding me, Walter. of
I was struggling with whether I was gonna do that.
that. Further discussion? Anybody else? All those in favor? Okay.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Rose.
you.
Hey,
See you,
Rose, you
Ruth.
can make a donation to the ambulance and the fire department, you know.
I will. And I'll make a donation to the new building.
Oh, good. Okay, this, Brian, you're on, and I think Walter has, I know Walter has done some work on this. Do you have the spreadsheet that Walter put together? You don't.
I sent that to you, didn't I?
Nope.
Well,
Is it just this one?
yes,
Well, three.
there are three. It's a workbook with three things in it.
I did look at it. Oh, you know what, I think, do I have all three? I think I do. Harry, turn this off.
John, are you looking for Walter's budget for the
No, fire truck.
fire truck? Oh,
Walter-
that should have been in your original packet.
Yeah, but Walter said there's 3 pages, I only have one.
Oh, that's all I have too.
There's one?
Just
Yeah,
one.
we're talking about fire truck.
Yeah, he didn't name the second and third tab. He just left
There's sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3.
Yeah.
Can you share screen with that spreadsheet?
Oh, I guess. I
You see
did,
it?
I did see this, but it's not in my packet. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Terry, you didn't include the second and third sheet, but that's okay. It's just an amortization
What's the
schedule, right?
One is level principal, so the principal is paid out, the same amount of principal is paid out every year. And then the other, it's just like a, a car loan or a mortgage. Brian, I apologize for that.
No,
I thought you were on my,
I got all the other emails. I wanted to do it. I don't know how to copy.
Hang on.
I got
Is it on?
I don't know. Brian knows how to copy.
Yeah, it is.
Said the 10-year.
well, we can do it 10 years, it's easy enough to do, it's just that I figured that
Pretty big bite of that.
that it's a big annual nut to pay back.
Because, I mean, this is 2 apparatus, but it's 10 years, right? You get we 5, even though it's a 30-year life on it. Well, the next buy will be for another apparatus in 10 years.
Well, can we start with having Walter walk us through the worksheet? and then-
Okay, so,
I had the similar question.
assumptions, we're gonna buy 2 trucks for $850,000. We're gonna look for approval at the town meeting in 2022. If we do a borrowing, and the assumption is that we will do a borrowing. As of November, there was 210,517 in the fire truck reserve. And in December, a payment from the payback for the ambulance was made of 34,632. So all other things being equal, at town meeting, there will be a balance of 245,149 in the fire truck reserve. So if you deduct that from the 850,000, it leaves 604,851 to be raised to hit the 850. I considered it to be unlikely that we would ask the town to pony up tax increases to amount to 604,851. So I went out and did 2 scenarios for with the main bond bank, and that's what you have. And so each is a borrowing of, I use 15 years. When you do business with them, you pay twice a year. The difference between the 2 is, one, the principal is level principal. So that a principal payback is the same every payment period. At the end of the 15 years, you will have borrowed 604,851 and paid back with interest 689,555. And then scenario 2 is like when we borrowed to buy a car or a mortgage. We're paying back principal every pay period. We pay back more in that case, 693,750, 693,751. There are any number of other scenarios. And the main bond bank is not the only, obviously the only source of funds. I did mention that when we did the transfer station borrowing last year, I went out to First National, Machias, Bangor, and Bar Harbor. Bangor and Bar Harbor wouldn't touch it. Machias wasn't competitive, and First National Bank, which just happened to be our bank, gave us terms that were better than main bond banks.
So I have two questions on this sheet, and before we open it up to a broader discussion. The 210, and this is, well, for either Terry or Walter, does that include the contribution that we budgeted in this budget period?
Yes,
Yeah.
you paid the 52.9 is in there.
Yes,
Okay.
You're gonna verify that, Terry, right? We've nodded our heads on that?
yes.
Yes.
The 50,
Okay, so when the tax money came in, you funded the reserves.
yes.
Okay, that was question number one. And what was question number two? It escaped me. Okay, so, so comments, discussion, Jeff, you had some questions, or?
So the payback in December, is that the last payback?
No, there are 20, 21, 22, and 23.
Okay, so, and this was 21, so there's.
Right, so,
68,000 more.
Oh, I remember my question.
Don't look for my.
So, yeah, so why wouldn't we have two? Why wouldn't we have that payback, the second payback anticipated?
It's calendar year 2022.
But by the time, correct me if I'm wrong, by the time we got this truck and had to actually execute the loan, we probably would be beyond that second payment.
The payback, you mean?
Second
Okay,
payment.
so in calendar 2022, we owe ourselves 34,135. And in calendar 2023, we owe ourselves 33,639. It's the 2022 one, you could argue that well, it's stretching. I don't know what, if anything, would be violating in terms of principles. The 2022 payment, remember, this spreadsheet was created when we were on this calendar year. So the question is whether between January and June of 2022, we could actually legitimately make that 34,135 payment. I guess we can always pay ourselves back anytime we want when we borrow from ourselves.
Just like we could to a bank.
However, right, we need to be careful about the fund a reserve and withdraw from the reserve in the same year.
Right.
So if we're going to do something with that 34,135, we better decide to do it in the first 6 months of this year and make sure that that's a legitimate thing to do.
And the not funding when you're pulling from it, that's to make sure you don't double count.
Right.
And this would not, if you're repaying it, it's just like you haven't spent it, right? It's still in there, it's just sitting somewhere else.
Oh, good point.
Okay, so it's not being, you're not double dipping if you do that.
So the fiscal 2023 payment, we could do, it's the 2022 payment, we can get around that anyway. But the 2023 payment, 33,639, we can make between July 1st, 2022 and, okay.
Yeah, because we would have the truck then anyways. Right. I mean, by the time, if this all goes smoothly, and it passes, and we put a truck committee and we put it out to bid and order it, I mean, Christ, it could be,
2023.
yeah.
And we're putting what, 52,000
Or later.
a year in there.
Go ahead, Terry. You're muted.
That fourth payment, does some of that money have to go to the reval?
In the last payment, you're right. Because we didn't take all,
Okay, so.
we didn't take the whole 132,564 from the,
It's not 33,629 then, it's some,
the last payment is, do you remember what the reval amount was?
No, I don't remember. I didn't even know about it until,
Less than 20,000 plus 1.5% interest.
so that 33 could be 10,000.
I don't think it would be that low.
No, okay.
I mean, I have those numbers. I'll go do that tomorrow.
Because, I mean, 33,000 would make a fairly substantial difference on the interest payment. Not huge, but, yeah. But it isn't gonna be some number less than that, from what I'm hearing. Right. So, so Jeff, you wanted to talk about sort of future planning in terms of,
So the next apparatus would be due to be the same process gone through in 10 years. And it's probably gonna be comparable price tag, right?
I can't say yes, I'm gonna say it should be lower because it's only one truck.
Oh, yeah, good point.
if it's low, in terms of 2022 dollars, right?
Correct.
would
It
definitely-
should be-
would Definitely. be lower.
Yeah, because we're only gonna, it
Okay.
should be only one truck.
Good point. And you would expect the third truck, a third truck, 10 years from, roughly 10 years from this purchase, is that what I'm hearing? Or would it be 10 years from
It
today?
should be roughly 2033, 2035, something that.
Okay, so about 10 years from this purchase.
Yes.
But, so at some point, if we, how much are we putting in now? 52?
52.9 is what we did
And
this
what is
year.
the payment for, on the loan? I don't have those sheets.
50,
The annual?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
40, 80, 46.
Okay, so that basically means that for 10 years, I mean, that 15 years, that's gonna outstrip the 10-year period.
Right.
So we're not gonna be able to put any money away for the third payment without a budget increase.
Correct.
Yes. Or
Yes.
come 10 years, we would have to borrow for the entire truck.
And the reason I said that, because this is for 15, and we would be doing the same thing in 10 years. So for 5 years, the last 5 years of this one we'll end up with 3 of them.
Yeah.
3 payments of 50,000 instead of 2.
Why three?
Because you've got this one for 5 more years.
Yeah.
And you got the new one, if we borrow for it, for whatever, so they will overlap,
So that's 2.
and the amount that you put in every year for the,
Yeah.
that feeds
Gotcha.
his
Gotcha.
reserve.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so,
Okay, so do we have, and we don't have any outstanding debt on fire apparatus now? So we got nothing coming off, as they say.
and we don't have any other debt
This building-
external.
This building.
Oh, this building.
This building,
yeah.
Minor amount for the streetlights
And we have the ambulance debt.
and the ambulance.
Wouldn't it be another ambulance?
Yeah, but the ambulance debt is internal, right? We didn't borrow it.
Right, but so that,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So,
and, you know, and we have some other challenges too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Walter, I'm sorry.
so Brian, along the lines of future. So, so there was Granite Street structure fire and a Heron Cove structure fire. And when I looked at the pictures in the paper of all those, first of all, they were total losses. And there were more pieces of equipment and more fire guys on those sites than you can shake a stick at. So what would it have to happen? What would life have to be differently for those buildings to have been saved.
Put in a hydrant system, make us full-time.
Thank you. Okay, so that's it. It's not full-time, it's staff.
Staff, personnel here,
Yeah, okay.
and a
All
hydrant
right,
system.
I mean, well, I just wanted to make sure that I knew the answer. I always look to you to give me my opinion on things, fire.
Yeah, I mean, setting up to get water takes time.
Yeah.
It's a lot slower than hooking up to a hydrant.
So,
And then.
I mean, we were here that night where you had the muster while we were having a big
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
And we saw how fast that was.
Yeah,
But so if it was that fast for those two fires, it wouldn't have mattered.
correct. And that doesn't always happen, what happened here. We got lucky that night that
Well, because everybody was home.
everybody, right. I mean,
Okay.
we went out last night and we had just enough. The other thing to remember in this town is that, yes, we might have 20 fire ponds, but they're not strategically located. So time and distance of shuttling water. By having it on wheels, rolling out of the station with almost 5,000 gallons of water from here is a great start.
So just one other, is there anything to report from your meetings with your peers in the other towns, or is it premature to listen to that, to ask about that?
Right now, I'd say it's premature, but it also was a waste of my time.
Oh.
But I put my feelers out and that's where I'm at, but that doesn't mean it's done.
Okay,
I'm not giving up on this topic.
all right.
It just might take some time. My other question I have, if I can,
Yeah.
because this is why I lean on you guys. You guys know how this all works on the financing. But 52,000, I think, was what was put in the reserve last year. So in my 2022-23 budget that's coming, I'm gonna do my normal thing. I asked for 15% higher. So that's 60. That payment, if, say we go with that number, round number, 60,000, would that reduce this as well? Because it would be in there before the truck has actually arrived. Would that help? I mean, Jeff, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except that would double dip on the budget, so.
But we wouldn't be pulling out, my understanding from the truck companies, if we, say we ordered the truck, everything went the way we're all hoping. And that we ordered the truck August 1st, 2022. My understanding from the truck companies, they're not asking for funds right then and there. You got a year.
Okay.
Some companies are 2, some are 1, but that's one of their, because they understand what everybody's going through.
And you're not gonna pay all the money until you get delivered.
Correct. We're not gonna make the payment until after the truck shows up.
You might have to make some deposit, right?
2023, you could still make it.
Right,
We just wouldn't show this in the 23 budget.
right.
It would be waiting for.
Well, we can get around that so-called double dipping. You just set that money, you raise that money and earmark it for a debt service payment. Right. You know, there's ways around.
And the other big thing, that, I mean, I think might be a positive, yes, we have to go the route we're going. Yes, I am applying for this grant. Before we even order a truck, I should have the answer known from FEMA if I got the grant or not,
Right.
which would change.
Right, yeah, I agree, yeah. And Ruth's gonna give you $250,000.
And
Uh-huh.
so from my perspective, what I love this. This is, this is right up my alley kind of stuff, right? And can you do the same thing for 10 years? I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Yeah, they got a calculator.
Takes about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you just plug in the calculator. Yeah.
Because I think the reality is that that's probably where we would want to be. If,
What did you say, how many years?
10 years,
10.
10.
So that we stick with the 10-year
Yeah.
plan. I mean, the other option is, and again, maybe you can take a look at it, is 15 a better target for us? Can we change? Because right now, I mean, several years ago, 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, you came up with a beautiful plan. It took a lot of headaches and a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
a lot
We're
of
ready to
precedent
do it all
discussing.
over again.
And that came up with 10 years. So it might be worth relooking at. Is 15 a better number?
But I'm not, I agree with you, but NFPA guidelines,
Right.
first two pieces of apparatus is 10 years.
Yeah.
Or 20 years, and that's where the 10-year came into play.
Correct.
Because theoretically, when we go to replace the third truck, that now becomes the first two truck in the current 2015 truck becomes the third. Yeah,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Never mind.
What
You
is,
answered the
what is
question.
the
I
third
agree.
truck? Is this the one that has the high maintenance cost?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, very much.
That
so.
was the first truck.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so let's keep this on the agenda, and kick it around a little more,
Good job.
the other.
I haven't, but David and I have talked from our, because you said it as a kicker reminder, presentations. We are ready to get it put together and go before town meeting to have as long as it works with all the guidelines, having a presentation and doing what we did 15, 20, 10 years ago, whatever we did. We'll do it again. We're more than willing to do it. So.
It's important.
I think it's
Critical.
it's what turned the corner
Yeah.
for the budget into this. The whole process, the town accepted it, the budget committee accepted it, the select board accepted it. So that presentation is what turned the corner on it.
We'll do it again.
I think, in my mind.
We'll do it again.
It failed the first time.
Yeah, but they didn't, that's
That's what
when
they
they went back and did the
Yeah.
presentation.
I think
We were
it's
trying
critical.
something different before we went to the 10-year plan.
And we're talking a lot of money here.
I know.
So I think it's critical.
Yep.
And I would like to ask one other thing. We're talking about, when we talk about structure fires, I think, and I guess I want you to comment on it. There's really two issues in the structure fire, in my mind. One is saving the structure, but more importantly, one is having the ability to hopefully save someone or someone's, plural, lives.
Yeah. Lives and property is
And-
priority one.
Right, and having a fair amount of water on the truck could potentially, correct me if I'm wrong, enable you to get into someplace to save someone.
Yeah.
And the structure may go.
The way it works with, so we have 1,000 gallons on one truck. That's 10 minutes from when you're on scene. You've got 10 minutes worth of water as long as you're using your water the correct way. And it's for life safety reasons first.
Because in 10 minutes, you could get someone out.
Correct. So now you add on the trucks, because these two trucks go out at the same time. You got 4,000 gallons of water right there. That's putting our odds, mind you, all the other obstacles that come into play of delay of call, being sent to the wrong location, all that other stuff.
That never happened.
No, it doesn't. Never on Granite Street.
Or Herringbone Road.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are the other obstacles. I mean, in the ideal world, it is a hydrant system, the manpower, and everybody being there waiting for the tones to drop. We all, like just last night, we were all home for maybe 20 minutes. I had just put my head on the pillow and we turned around and went out to St. George. We all got home about midnight. But that's fire ponds, I mean, you gotta have the water on the wheels, you gotta have the manpower. So, because all of us, all departments in the county, state, country are struggling to get people. It might look like there's 40 or 50 people there, but maybe only 10 are certified to do anything. So we, this department, are in a perfect condition to do everything we're asked to do. So, sorry.
Okay, thank you. We'll put this on the agenda next time, Terry, keep it rolling.
Via Zoom,
Yep, via Zoom.
not a problem.
Yeah. So, why don't we accept that donation next? Terry, remind us who made the donation?
Charlie and Audrey McClure.
Oh, yeah.
And Charlie and Audrey McClure.
Okay, you got a motion, Jeff or Walter?
I move that we accept the donation to the library from the McClures and the amount of
$150.
$150.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Terry, you'll send them a thank you letter and hopefully one of those new receipts.
No, that money goes into the checking account.
the
Two different
receipt
things.
that says we received no service for this. Remember we talked about last week?
Okay, now this.
Not the donation.
This isn't a receipt, this is a instruction.
I got it.
I'm actually glad you said that.
Well,
You guys all set with me?
all right, that's it.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, Walter, you wanted to talk about the transfer station
I didn't,
budget.
I didn't want to talk about it.
Well,
I just felt compelled to talk about it.
I hope I got the right numbers here. Thought I saw.
Do you have my highlighted?
The only place I really looked at was South Thomas assessment line.
Well. So
And I think I read that right, and I went, ooh.
you did. You read that right. Our share of the assessment's gone up, and our assessment is gone up by 23.8%.
Wow.
And when you look at that, the short story is, a difference between this year and last year is we had a bang up revenue year for the first year of sticker sales last year. This year, we're budgeting for $17,000 less on the revenue side. I'm just going to cover the heavy hitters.
Yeah, sure.
The top line, the big expenses. The TRI, which is Thomaston Recycling, that's 130,816. Same year over year. One of our biggest expenses, except there's also a CPI kicker on top of that I haven't seen yet. But that's contract. That's a contract which is up for renewal next year. Single stream is interesting because it's getting more expensive to be nice to the planet. And overweight fees, you can see that we budgeted last year 4,500, we spent 8,000, so we're budgeting 10,000. The biggest contributor to overweight fees is the water content in that we're sending to Echo Maine. And the new renovation encloses those compactors. So over time, we shall hopefully reduce the amount of overweight.
Where is the overweight? I don't, sorry.
It's overweight fees, it's. under
Oh, I got it.
expenses.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, in the contractual service. Yeah.
Right. And 2 years ago, our personnel committee did a major exercise at slotting our employees. And then along came COVID, and that exercise was still valid, but we had to raise some of the numbers. We were competing with Maritime Farms at $18 an hour plus health benefits and some other, and sign-on bonuses. We've had wicked recruitment problems for operators, but our biggest one is retention and expanded duties for our bookkeeper. So that's the only significant increase on the people-related expense line. And the real kicker here is that where did I show you the yeah, if you look down at the bottom, the funds for the renovation, right now we have $1,087,335 in our capital improvement fund. That's committed to the renovation, and we're draining our contingency fund of $157,887 to meet the requirements of the new bid that we got. This is one of those really disappointing things. We de-scoped the project, and yet we had a $40,000 increase over the original estimate.
The
So
original estimate or the original first bid?
the first bid,
And
$994.
what happened to the first bid?
Actually, the first estimate was 1.2 million.
Yeah.
The first bid came in well under that. And then we had delay upon delay upon delay at being able to contract with them, and they withdrew.
Mainly because of Thomas.
Well,
But
I think there was some, I'm not gonna throw any of my colleagues under the bus.
Yeah, all right. So they withdrew then?
They withdrew.
Yeah, okay.
And then when we went back to them, they don't, we went back to them with, we want to change the building from steel to wood to reduce cost, and they wouldn't do that. So that's when we had to default to the next lowest bidder. So,
So was there any thought of bidding it again?
yes, and I think it was a timing thing, and that may yet happen.
Yeah.
We have a couple weeks before we have to sign the new contract.
Yeah.
And I think the
Of course, the danger in that is that it could be more.
Well, yeah. So what's happened is the facilities committee and our new member are doing he's an engineer and a construction guy. And he and Zell Bowman, who's the Thomaston rep on the committee, she's an architect, and Bruce Colson is the chairman of the facilities committee. They're going to do a walkthrough to get a handle on the things that what's happened here is that like this project is 2-3 years overdue, and we replaced the residential compactors because they were falling apart. The compactors on the hill, they're even worse, and those are the ones that the haulers use, and they're so old that spare parts are almost impossible to find when they break. And there are other problems on that hill, which is going to be completely reconfigured during this project. But the concern I have, and the committee has, is that the sense of urgency with those issues is rising faster than we're going to be able to get the project underway.
Okay.
So it's not a great situation.
So the bottom line is we're looking at what, a $34,000 increase or something like that?
Yep.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, 145,416 to 173,8.
Yeah.
No, that's Owl's Head. Sorry, 143,185 to 177,209.
Yeah, that's 34, right? Or I mean, and some, not exactly, but roughly a $34,000 increase.
Yeah, 34,024.
So that's a budget impact right out of the gate. Not to mention the county, which we know is up. Okay.
So the good, I think, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that if you take out the contingency addition, your budget is still only up 3%
Correct.
over last year.
And the revenue is down, fairly significant. Well, yeah, $17,000. That's half of the increase is that revenue loss. Okay, anything else, Walter?
No, I think you guys are nicer than I expect. Owl's Head colleague, our Owl's Head colleagues are going to be. Don't know about Thomaston. But what's interesting is that the only people that have ever come basically to one of our meetings are people coming to complain about stickers.
Yeah. I came to complain about the sign that says Thomaston Recycling Center or whatever it says, but transfer collection, but it's still up there.
Oh, you guys paying somebody else?
No,
The prison is no longer.
no, we don't do that anymore.
Okay, so, yeah, because I think for
I'll
some
go.
reason it doesn't come out to 100%.
Oh.
So it looks odd that Thomason went from 43.5 to 47.
So what are we talking about? Why don't we do this?
I have bad math in the assessment percentages.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the numbers for 2021
2021.
in the assessment.
in the percentage of total?
Yeah, because that shows up, if you add those up, it should add up to 100%.
Right,
And it doesn't.
Yeah, it ends up to 48, 43 is on 100.
Right. So, and what it,
But that's 2021.
correct,
So it's just, the assessment's correct, it's just the percentages are wrong, right?
I think so.
Well,
Because the 2022s are add up to 100%.
yeah,
So, and so I can't figure out.
well, the assessment's on the other sheet, which I can't find now, it's on the back, I hate two-sided paper. But it does save the planet, I guess. The 2021 assessments. Well, those don't work either, do they?
Well, they're right out of the P&L.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong year, sorry. 145, 143, 255. Yeah, they're right. So the assessments are, well, they're right if this sheet's right. If they're the same on these two sheets.
I'll go redo the
Yeah, so I
formula,
think it's,
Jeff.
I think it's just the percentages. Okay. Terry, is there any correspondence?
No,
Okay. Do we have warrants? We do. That's fine. So Terry, just quickly, we'll run down next meeting. We're gonna have any adjustment requests for salary or wage increases or decreases. Well, theoretically. Let's keep on the fire trucks as we talked about. And the temporary relocation in Midcoast, will keep them running. I think that's it at this point, isn't it? There'll be plenty more. Do you think of anything else?
nope.
Okay. Anybody else think of anything at this point?
Oh,
All right.
bids.
Oh.
Bids.
Oh, yeah,
Bids.
bids, yeah. Review of the bids. Did you find out if Andrew was available that night?
Yes, he is.
Yes, okay. And would you let him know we're gonna be meeting by Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have one.
yeah, go ahead.
Deep dive on the year-end financials.
Okay. Gonna do a review of the year-end finance, or not our fiscal year, the calendar year.
Calendar year.
Yeah, and Karen, you've already started on that because you're getting out some of the actuals for the department heads for their budgets and stuff.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, anything else on that? Future meetings, anyway, go ahead.
You had said something about picking a date for the joint workshop.
Yes, good idea. Why don't we, yeah, I sent out an email, thinking that we might want to just sort of get a hold the dates for that joint meeting between the facility committee, the board, and Kristen. Getting all those stars aligned could be difficult. And we're talking, I guess, April, is that right, or January, February, March, or late March? Anybody want to throw out a couple of dates in late March, and then I can circulate with Kristen and Sandy, and she can circulate, or Gabe, and they can circulate with their members, Penny and everybody in the world.
My favorite dates in March are Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
I would like to be back. And I'll be back probably around the 23rd. You want to try the 30th? Are we budget meeting that week?
I can't remember, and my calendar is in my office.
I think we are.
I think we are too. How about the 6th? April 6th? We can try that. That work? Walter? Tentatively, I mean. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Penny, for reminding me of that. Okay, and I have not had a chance to call Union either. I will. Okay, well, let's just check where we are with meetings. What we got, February
8 and 22.
Well, we have another one in January, right?
Right.
Let's make sure we're all on the same page. We have January 18th. 18th, what I have. And the bid to do the 14th, but we don't need to be there for that. But if someone wants to go to that, if I was in town, I would. Oh, and Terry, does that give Andrew enough time to look at those and analyze them? It sounds like.
He said it did.
Yeah, okay. And then what do we have in February? I have the 8th and the 22nd. I didn't have the 22nd, but I'll put it down. February. Yeah, the 22nd is gonna be tough for me. I'm gonna be on the road. And we're doing the budget meeting the following week. Yeah, that's gonna be hard for me. We do the 22nd. You want to just do the 8th and see what we have, or you want to tentatively book in the 22nd, and then at least you two have it on your calendar. Okay. Yeah. And maybe I can chime in for some of it, or from a hotel room somewhere or something. Are you getting back like on that? Yeah, probably on the 22nd. Or the 23rd. Oh, I was gonna say, I'm not averse to doing it on the 23rd. Well, I definitely be back by the 24th if you would indulge me. Yeah, that's good for you. Walter, does that work for you? 24th of March? Yeah. Thursday, not at this time. No, okay.
Did you pick something earlier in March?
Yeah, the 8th. The 8th.
Just like February 8th?
Yes.
Okay.
That often happens in February and March. Or does it always happen? No, it doesn't happen. It only happens when there's 28 days. If there's 29, it doesn't. Right. How about, well, if we move it to the 23rd, my chances of being back are much greater. I mean, that works for me. Does that work for you all? The 23rd is the Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah, it does. All right, so let's move it to the 23rd, and my wife will say, what? We just got home 3 hours ago.
I'm sorry, but what meeting was that?
The March 23rd, we're gonna slide it a day to the 23rd, and that would give me a better chance of being here in person. I'm gonna be on the road probably.
Is that a Selectboard meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, if we're still doing that, the conflict with the, no, wrong Wednesday, no, never mind. I was looking at that.
Conflict with the facilities committee? Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah, okay.
look at it.
Thank you.
Don't have to
No,
double
no,
book in
I
meetings.
appreciate that, because I'm in my own world here, and I just think, you know, the world revolves around the select board, which of course it doesn't. Okay, did you get all that?
We have a meeting on January 18th, February 8th, February 22nd, March 8th, and March 23rd.
That's what I have.
April 6th.
You wanna go up that far?
Well, that's the workshop.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna shoot for that workshop tentatively on April 6th.
Right.
Joint meeting of BOS, Kristen, and the facilities. And I will, that's tentative. Okay. And then I would like to enter executive session. Before we do that, how are we gonna handle this technologically speaking?
I would say we just end the recorded Zoom portion of the meeting at this point, and that way I can go home. And
Yeah,
Terry takes off or
And,
stays after.
can you post it from there, or,
I don't know if I can with the owl.
because I don't know how to shut anything off or anything.
But why don't we shut it all off
Right.
now?
Because we're not gonna make
Okay,
any,
all right, so, all
we're not gonna
right,
make any motions. when we come out.
Is
Well-
Terry going to be present?
yes, I'd like her to,
Okay, well then,
definitely.
Kenny, can you
Mhm.
make me co-host? And then would I be able to shut it off?
do that, but I should stop the Zoom. I mean, the
Not
YouTube.
until we go into executive
Right,
session.
but I'll
Yeah.
stop the YouTube,
Yeah,
Yep.
then I'll get out, I'll
that's
go,
a cool.
Terry will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you're right, Jeff. I
If you would,
anticipate,
Terry.
for the public's, information that even though after we come out of executive session won't be on YouTube, we will not be taking any motions. I think we can commit to that at this point. So there will be no action,
So I
other
move,
than adjourn.
so I move we go into executive session pursuant to MSRA 4056A to discuss a personnel matter.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. So it's 8:10.